Okay, guys, we're on the air. Or Jeffrey, we're on the air. Well, guys, this is what? FUBAR? Is that what they call it? Almost FUBAR?
I don't know what it is.
Anyhow, the collar, the fast collar wasn't fast. It was a loose collar, which that's kind of what I thought it was, but it was probably a loose collar. We're still inspecting. It's got a keyway in here. I knew it was loose when I got it. And I think this is the keyway in there. That's supposed to be, what they call this, a woodruff? And it has opened this up, well, that much. Can you see it? It's almost sheared that key off of there. You might be able to see the crack in there. So this was kind of screwed up more than we were planning. We're not going to weld it on. We're going to go ahead and put it back right. The welds, what do you say? This is some kind of steel that might not want to weld nice. So it's not a good plan. I did talk to Mark, and his is welded on. Maybe other ones are welded on, but they probably knew that they were going to weld it, so they had steel that would weld this to the collar. So what we're going to do is we're looking up this nonsense, and instead of trying to even fix that, because that you can weld it up and turn it off, and weld it up and turn it off, and weld it up and turn it off, and it just isn't going to make a whole lot of difference. We're going to go ahead and recut a new one in, I can't see where I'm looking, in here. This is what the blade sits on right here. This is where the blade goes up to the, well, the blade doesn't really make it to there because it stops at this point here. The taper on this is real good, but it's just like I said, every time you tighten it, it was moving. But what else we found was bearing inside this thing it needs replacing. It's got probably a flat spot in every bearing, and I don't know, it's probably been that way ever since I owned it. And so we're going to go ahead and fix that too. While we're in there, you got to fix everything. Who knows what those bearings in there cost? They're probably a couple $100 a bearing. I replaced them on the number one. The only reason we're replacing it, well, I don't know. To get those pulleys off down there is no easy task. I've been there before. Bearings come off easy. These come off easy because you just tighten them on and they release themselves from the, I don't know, the locking ring or whatever. You set the preload and it locks them on. I don't know exactly how it works. I used to, but I don't know anymore. Anyhow, so we're going to have to take that apart, order some bearings for that, order a woodruff key or whatever this thing is, order a cutter to cut it in here, and order some 5-inch round steel to make a new fast collar. So that's where we're at. So right now I don't have a sawmill. This is terrible. You know, that big sawmill will run now. I didn't tell you, I got that thing all set back in. I could put a log through there now if I had to.
Don't have sawdust drag.
Well,
it's illegal.
It's illegal to run a sawmill without a sawdust?
That's improper procedure.
Is that what our new president says? It's not green if you don't have a sawdust drag?
Woodruff cutter.
Anyhow,
is 50.
I might have to throw a log through it just to show you that it'll cut. I'm aligning my dogs. Have you ever heard of lining of dogs?
Aligning a dog?
Aligning your dogs.
Only if they go hit.
Well, you pull them out.
You can't cut an inch board with the tits, and you got to do something with it.
Well, that's basically what the problem is. But I want all the, I don't know how to fix what I've gotten into. I spent 2 hours on it today trying to fix what I got into, and I don't know what I got in, because they all come out, and when you put the dog down, I want them all to be in the same position. And they're all, some of them are tight, and some of them are over an inch out on the same key. They're all over the world. I don't know how you could even.
Like that.
Well, what's screwed up in it? The pin that holds the dog?
I have no idea. I think it's just the fact that they're all cast pieces up in the crosshead.
It's the crosshead that's screwing it up.
Yeah.
But then the other problem that you got is the thickness of that wear part on your head, on the L. Yeah, your head. You're not on there. He's hiding behind, he's looking at Confuser. He's giving me a parts list that's going to scare me. Anyhow.
Only if you buy a car by it, then you get scared.
This is a one-shot wonder, ain't it?
What's that?
We're going to cut one key and never have to do it again, I hope.
Yeah, probably.
What size you think's on that number 1 mill? That's got to probably be a half inch on that thing.
I would say it's bigger than this one.
Now now we're gonna have to make a broach for that thing, right? You got a 3/8
broach.
3/8 broach, okay.
Now, I don't know if we have a collar.
A collar, I had to make a collar.
Might have to, yeah.
So now we got to find some steel to make a collar because the collar has to be.
Last collar we made was out of a piece of old set shaft. Remember? I got one down there, but I don't know what size. If it's 2 inch.
It's got to be bigger than 2 inch, right? It's got to be the diameter of this.
Yeah, whatever that is. Whatever we machine it to, because it's so rough, we got to cut a new surface there.
Oh.
We only have what's in between the two sizes to work with it. Right?
Right. You can't mess with this size here.
Nope.
And you can't bring, so you can't cut, you can't change this size right here. That's the size of the hole in the saw, the eye of the saw. And this has to be bigger because the fast collar comes down and bottoms out on this. It can't be longer than this because the way it lines up on the whole thing. So you couldn't put the fast collar on and weld it on the back. That wouldn't work either. So that's where we're at on this thing. I'm not going to make it any longer than this. I don't think we need to make it any longer than this. We got a mess. I got a mess. So anyway, I'm glad you guys stopped by. I think you thought you'd be interested in the latest catastrophe that I'm getting into. I think if you wanted to torture somebody and tell them all their secrets, you'd have to, what'd you do? Make them in charge of a sawmill? And they'd tell you all their life secrets before they'd work on the sawmill or something like that? To torture somebody, you'd give them a sawmill and tell them to work on it.
Yeah.
And they would divulge all their secrets. You know, why do you want to put yourself through this kind of pain? No, I don't know. Anyhow, this thing was loose from the get-go.
If you want to machine wood, you got to learn how to machine metal first.
I don't know. I thought you had to have a sawmill to make a sawmill.
And a machine shop.
And a machine
carpenter shop.
And a carpenter. And a foundry. Guys, go buy a band mill. We'll see you later. Over and out. I'm glad you stopped by for a continuing story or saga or the next chapter on this mill. Stay tuned.
Put it under ultimate stupidity.
Ultimate stupidity. Yeah, you got to. It might be easier. Might be less painful to poke my eye with a stick.
Right.
Anyhow, I'm glad you guys came by. We got this. I got my saw blade that I painted downstairs. It turned into a real disaster. So I brought it down for Jeff to bail me out on that. So anyhow, we'll see you guys later. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell if you want to see what the next step on this cluster, whatever, is coming up. See you later. Bye.